The options for a contract for the Michigan Humane Society. Clerk Sanders, please take the roll.
Trustee Taylor?
Here.
Trustee King, absent. Trustee Jackson?
Here.
Trustee Reese?
Here.
Treasurer Kavanaugh, absent. Clerk Sanders, here. Supervisor McCray?
Here. Okay, quorum's present. The chief is going to go over most of the material. We have been dealing with the Michigan Humane Society for several months now, trying to figure out why they're trying to actually steal from us, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I call it steal, outright stealing from us. Highway robbery. I will say, and I don't want to get into the chief's report, but I know we've had them out here, we've had conversation with them, and none of it's good. So, and with that, I'll let you just go and I'll jump in wherever.
Wherever it
That's
needs
okay.
to be.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. I wish I was in front of you for something more pleasant to talk about, but we'll save that for later. For our study session, we are at a point where we need to make a decision on what we want to do with the Michigan Humane Society contract, which is where our animal control unit in the township houses dogs that we pick up, that we return, and all of that good like. Just some basic info. Our last year's contract technically ended on December 31st. One of the pages in your packet here, I believe it's the third page, we orchestrated a 3-month extension on last year's contract so that we had the opportunity to come in front of you guys and talk about it. As Supervisor McCray has mentioned, this has been he's being kind and saying a months-long project. I personally have been dealing with this mess for well over a year now. As you look at the first page of the document I gave you that talks about some of the history that's involved, you could see where the annual costs for our contract with the Humane Society. In '22, we were paying $54,972. And in '23, that jumped to $68,715, which in and of itself is bad enough. But down below, that is where they started taking some significant services changes from us. I'm sure those of you that were on the board then recall, they took away the 24-hour vet service. They started making unrealistic requirements as to what tranquilizers all of the animal control units use, not just for us, but for anyone who was there. So at that point in time, we were being charged significantly more for less services and less capabilities. And in fact, myself and Animal Control Officer Polovich spent a considerable amount of time in '23 looking for other options. As you guys will recall, that we came in front of you and we came up empty at that point. And so we signed the '23 contract, but we didn't sign it until July of '23. That's how long we tried. In '24, there was just a small increase, which, that was reasonable to me. That's just cost of living. So we went with that. Earlier this summer, the MHS approached me and they informed me that there was going to be some changes and they wanted to meet with me. Animal control officers talk. Don't think that they don't. So Officer Polovich was able to come to me ahead of time and be like, hold on to your pants, because this is what they're going to ask for. When they came in, instead of the $72,000 approximate dollars that we are paying now, they originally sat us down, myself with Supervisor McCray, Director Bonarek, and I had Captain Fitzsimmons sitting in there. And they informed us that they were essentially providing the equivalent of $230,000 of services annually. And that's what we needed to pay in order to keep up with the game. And on top of that, they informed us that over the past several years, in order for them to keep costs down, they had pushed off, is that a good word? Pushed off infrastructure needs. But those needed to be done. And if we wanted to continue in this, we would also be paying our portion of their infrastructure costs. I I believe it was 2.5 million, which equated to $230,000 and some change for us over the course of 3 years. So we were essentially looking at going from $72,000 a year to somewhere right around $300,000, right off the rip. We found this to be unacceptable. It was a very colorful meeting. There were a couple of meetings. At that point in time, while Officer Palovich and I had looked at some other options, clearly we started looking harder. We started sitting down with the Conference of Western Wayne, so we brought in all of our heads. So we had mayors and everybody who dealt with this. We all started having meetings. And we found out that we were not the only ones that were getting hit with this. And while our numbers sounded astronomical, we were the lowest. They were trying to hit up these other jurisdictions even more than us. We discussed the idea of a consortium or an authority with Conference of Western Wayne. And at one of the meetings with Michigan Humane Society, they expressed interest in participating in such a thing. As such, we said we would talk about it. Westland spearheaded putting out an RFP so that we could try and get maybe another nonprofit, somebody else to, let's put in the game, let's see what we can come up with. Unfortunately, at the time, Michigan Humane Society was the only one to submit an RFP. Page 2 of the little handout that I have for you was essentially their proposal to us. And one of the first things I want to point out is I want you to look at that top portion where it says the 1-year cost of the contract proposal. We're on the far right column, and in a 1-year contract, they want $12,230 a month from Redford Township to handle our dogs. More importantly, if you scan a couple over to the city of Westland, they want $36,000 a month from them. And the reason behind that, and this is part of the concerns and issues that Supervisor, myself, and Director Bonner have is, MHS figures, anybody who drops off a dog, we're just going to randomly charge that to Westland because we're in Westland. And if that's the way they conduct business, that's a little uncomfortable for us. Having said that, we do not have another answer yet. We have not been able to come up with another possible proposal to bring in front of you yet. We are looking at some different avenues, including a consortium or an authority with the Conference of Western Wayne, including the 4 jurisdictions you see there, as well as probably bringing in Canton, potentially Northville, and the city of Dearborn has actually been hopping on our calls as well. They closed down their personal shelter.
Did they?
Sorry, I saw Trustee Taylor staring at me. Yeah, they had some issues.
Okay.
So we're looking at some different concepts. Should we decide to enter into an authority? Should we decide that Redford Township wants to own and run our own shelter on our own accord? This is not something that we could put together quickly. So we still need this stopgap. I don't want to commit to saying that we're going to have the answer and have whatever the answer is operational at the 1-year mark, because what we're talking about includes construction. Somebody is going to have to build and or refurbish a building. And that's after we get an authority together and we know how long that could take. So we have the 2 options here, the 1-year and the 3-year. I'm not going to pretend and tell you that any of them are good choices. I just look at the math, and the 3-year looks better, but I'm going to leave that up to you. One of the things that Director Bonerick asked me to emphasize and share with you guys is even if we go with an authority, or even if we decide to do this in-house, in township, we're not going to guarantee you that it's going to cost less money. But what we will say is we have significantly more direction and control over how those funds are spent, especially to the supervisor's point of how they manage their budget.
Right, so,
And that's kind of where I stand. I just tossed in some other stuff for you. The last couple of pages of that package you see, please excuse my scribble, but they didn't email that to me, so you only had my notes that were written on. That's what they originally presented to me the first time we were out. And if you notice in the scribble, I wrote the 230,000 on the side there. That's because they'd already met with other jurisdictions and were not pleasantly surprised with their reactions. So they had already altered their marketing materials by the time they got to us.
Right, so we took the meeting with them and we already heard from other communities. I wasn't real pleased to even take a meeting with them, but we did. And when they wanted us to pay for their mismanagement of the building, I thought it was ludicrous. And for me, why would I give you money? If you couldn't manage what you had, why would I give you more money to fix a building that we don't even own? And that they seemed, at different times, they seemed as though they didn't care if we re-upped or if we did, or, you know, they were pretty wishy-washy about it. And
They at one point told us they did not necessarily care if they continued doing municipal work.
right,
They would have been more than happy to shut down all their municipal contracts and just do privatization of their adoptables and whatever they get granted for. So this is,
yeah, and they also said that their donors specifically didn't want to donate for
This-
municipal programs,
they felt that the taxpayer should pay for it,
Yeah.
is what they were telling us. So,
if what they said was true, you know, so needless to say, we, you know, came up with the Conference of Western Wayne, and we've been working on, I had the chief and Adam be at all the meetings. I was at some of them, and they were giving me updates, because it's a long process, and there's not a lot to tell, except we're at least we have something going. How that will turn out, I don't have an answer, you know, and depends on if all 5 communities or more stick together as to what we're doing. It's too early to say. But they're not offering anybody a better deal. I mean, by any means. It's like,
No.
here it is, take it or leave it. I don't really care, you know? And that's, you know, I have a problem with that because we have nowhere to go. You know, to me, that borders on monopoly, right? So,
the only other thing that could conceivably be done, and this is really outside our pay grade, is if the county were to decide
Yeah.
to run a shelter.
yep,
Like they do in other counties. But I would not optimistic there because this is not a profitable business.
no.
It really isn't. So I have also checked with any numerous amount of other jurisdictions, sometimes following up a second time from the first time I did this, to try and get into their shelters that nobody's got room. Even Taylor, who's about to have their own brand-new one,
So I was just about to ask
Not big
about
enough.
Taylor's shelter.
I tried. I took a swing out there. Myself, as well as the city of Livonia, both took a swing at the city of Southfield's vacated animal shelter, and they do not want to lease it out. They do not. So that wouldn't be big enough for all of us. Maybe us in Livonia,
Inkster never built one?
not that I'm aware of.
And the one that Southfield was looking at building and possibly partnering with, that kind of fell through too?
Southfield uses Oakland County.
They, okay.
Yeah, the only thing, Southfield's currently using theirs as like just a holding facility for a couple of days. Like if somebody brings a dog in on a Saturday, they'll leave the dog there until animal control comes in on a Monday. That's all that's being utilized right now at Southfield. Taylor was a no, Southgate's too small, Livingston has their own, Oakland has their own, Detroit has their own. They're already overrun, and I don't want my dogs going there.
Detroit Dog Rescue?
Not Detroit Dog Rescue, DDC, or the
Don't they have a
Detroit
new-
Animal Control.
Don't they have a new shelter up this way too, though, Detroit Dog Rescue? Do they take in public intakes or just what they find?
They're a rescue.
Okay.
We may have had that set up as an emergency in case I didn't get this extension.
In Dearborn, are they using the Friends of the Animals of Metro Detroit, that
My
rescue?
understanding is that the rescue that was in it previously that was running it?
Yes.
Then no.
Because they're still open, so did they just not?
They are no
renew them?
longer using that rescue.
Because if it makes any of us feel better, I looked up to see what they were paying. And their contract with them was not to exceed $240,000 a year. And they were charging them approximately $250 a dog at that Friends of Metro.
Well, and I did look at some different avenues. The city of Wayne has a very small shelter that they use mostly as the holding shelter, kind of like what I was talking about, using a stray hold. And that, because that was my original plan, was to have the stray hold here and then turn anything else over to MHS and let them run their adoptables. The problem is MHS, if you do that, instead of this one monthly fee, they then charge per dog per day. At $125 per dog per day, the entire time it's sitting there, it doesn't matter how long it takes to get adopted. So I could then be paying, $3,000 a dog.
But that's when, if you look at our contract, comparatively speaking, if we were to go with the 1 year, it works out to be about $157 a dog for the flat rate, but based on the 523 dogs that used that figure from a year ago. So it works out, so really, that's not that bad compared to what that Friends of Metro was charging. If we
Yeah,
look,
they're not there for a reason.
they're not at the Friends of Metro for a reason?
They're no longer utilizing them at that facility for a reason.
Okay. So, you're right, we need to buy the time to look at housing in holds here in Redford, if we'd have to have some kind of feasibility study, if we took we have an ice arena that we haven't really allocated for any specific use that's on our property that we own. What would a feasibility study look to turn that into a hold shelter, our own shelter for holds?
But that's only a 10-day hold.
Yeah.
And that becomes the issue. So what do you do with these dogs after a 10-day hold?
Right?
Euthanize them?
Okay.
You'd have to.
No?
I mean, those are adoptable dogs. Because that's a 10-day stray hold. Those dogs are not up for adoption until after that 10 days.
How long does MHS hold on to them after the 10-day hold if the owner doesn't come claim?
If they're deemed to be adoptable after they put them through their tests, I don't think they have an exact time frame.
And we don't pay for that then at that
No.
point? We're paying for the 10-day hold is what our basic charges
It's like a
are.
flat rate for the whole
They just
deal.
call them a flat rate, so
Yep.
yes.
So doesn't matter if they're there 2 days, 10 days, 30
Correct.
days?
Right.
Correct. They could be there 8 months,
Okay.
and that's fine. That's not an additional charge.
Are they charging owners when the owners come and claim them?
Yes, there is a fee, but that fee comes back to us.
Oh, we get that money back.
Yes.
So we don't know what the true cost of the contract is because we don't know how many of those, let's just say 500 dogs are actually being reclaimed.
It's not much. Let me rephrase that. The return rates are fairly high, but the cost rates are not. They charge $30 per day is what it costs. If your dog gets picked up and you go to get it, it's $30 per
If it's
day.
there, so if it's there 10 days and you pick it up at 10 days, you pay them 300, we get that 300 back.
The vast
Are we
majority.
keeping track of those returns from MHS?
I do have it. It is not a significant number. I don't have that number to provide you, but we do have it. It's not a significant number.
But we don't get all that.
We don't get it all back.
No, it's not like we get the $300 and I don't know what
No.
percent, we get a
We
percentage.
get a small percentage of it
Right.
that comes
We're
back.
not getting the whole feedback that the owner's paying to come pick up the dog.
So we're paying, and then when the owner comes in, the owner pays, and we get a small percentage of what the owner paid back.
So
Right.
So they're-
And even
they're
then, so
double dipping.
and the way our invoices come is, like right now, it's that $6,012, right? We know that's what we're paying.
Right.
And then there's a little note on it that says shelter reimbursement, so we keep it a little separate. I would say it's on average around $300 a month.
Yes.
Sorry, she does my bills. So it's around $300 a month now that
So
we're
about
getting back.
Roughly $3,000 a
A year.
year-ish.
It's negligible. Right, and that's
Okay.
why I didn't factor that into our discussion. I mean, yes,
Yes.
technically.
Page
And,
It's
yes,
not
ma'am.
enough.
It does show you on the second sheet that we get, that I give to the ACO of what happens with the dogs that bring in.
Yes, we do know exactly what dogs were picked up that month of the drop-offs, right? When we get our invoice, it'll say these, and this is a very low number, these 15 dogs were picked up. These 5 were returned right away, these 10 were not. Now,
And
we
I
don't
understand
track
her
them.
return numbers are pretty high though, right? Does she, like, at the end of the year, she'll say return rates are like 90% this year or something like that?
Return or adopted.
Or that.
Okay.
The adopted is very high.
The adopted is
Adopted's higher than the return probably?
essentially, yes, and I mean,
So then are they euthanizing that other 10% then, basically? Or it could be injury and not, they can't say that,
to speak candidly,
yeah,
we're a drop site for Detroit. A lot of the dogs that Officer Polovich takes in are aggressive dogs that I wouldn't contend with.
okay. So temperament issues that just need to be
Significant.
euthanized.
Significant temperament issues, we have that problem. We have injury problems, we have disease problems, because unfortunately, they just dump them here. And we know that, we just can't catch them dumping them. So her numbers are very high, but if you're, the system that you're looking at, because I assure you, we put some thought into, we
So
really
you can't
wanted
just
to
go
run.
Shoo, back over to like 8 and South Fifth. Go.
We really were very much interested in running this holding shelter here. We really were, and I had a big plan for that. And I think it could have worked. The problem is then having the adoptables go
Yeah.
out. We didn't have time to do more look into having a nonprofit come in, but there seems to be some different issues in doing that. And so I would be concerned with putting all our eggs in that basket.
What would the authority look like with all of the municipalities?
Well, and the thing is there's a lot of different directions that authority could go.
Yeah.
The biggest one would be a legal consortium, almost like we do, like for our task forces, for the mobile field force, or that sort of thing. We all participate, we're all gonna pay accordingly to usage, right? But then there would also be what community is going to house it? Which community is going to, for lack of a better word, run it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all gonna pay in,
Yep.
but who's gonna
This
take the
consortium
responsibility?
wouldn't be a strong arm to get a better deal through the Humane Society as a whole.
No, in their opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Supervisor, they'd be happy to participate in an authority, because then we would just be paying them money to improve their buildings, to then, leave them with the better end of the deal when we're done.
Yeah.
I guess the positive side of that, because I know one of the things he brought up was, can we purchase the property from you? And then we'll run it.
By that building.
And they went thumbs down. They were not interested in selling their building. So we're not really sure what they were interested in doing with it, but they made it abundantly clear that they would love to work with us, but they did not care if it all went away.
So it sounds like something a multi-municipality
This consortium,
That's
would
what-
take years to develop a plan as to who's gonna buy the building, who's gonna house it, who's gonna staff it.
Well,
How do you do?
I think it's
not
safe
just
to
holds,
say-
but adoption, which is the hard part, right? Because you couldn't have a dog for,
in my mind, this would be these 5, 6, 7 communities would all come together. We would pick a location. And to be fair, to me, that's going to be the hardest part, is which municipality is going to be willing to accept having it in their jurisdiction, because that's the municipality that's essentially going to be responsible for the end of it. Not that I'm saying I would like it here, but if it were to be here, I was seeing it being run as its own little department or its own business, being directed by a board of directors. The board of directors would be the authority, right? Whoever they name to it. But if it was us, it would be the Department of Animal Services run by Gabriel Reese. He's the director. And then there would be the authority of whoever, Livonia, Westland, Canton,
Everybody's
Dearborn
got a
Heights,
seat.
In place, yes.
that would then sit above the director as you do, as you sit above us.
And then the budget would come from, the monies would come from all the municipality into a central fund.
Correct.
They'd have to
And that
commit to
fund
the
would be
authority.
operated by whatever community it is.
Correct,
That's
but
correct.
that building would in fact be operated and/or leased by this consortium, by this authority.
Yeah.
So in all realism, it will easily take us a year,
Oh, yeah.
A good year.
because it's gonna take us
That's a
truthfully about
lot
4
of
months just to
legwork.
figure out what this authority is gonna be.
Yeah, yeah.
Much less,
Find a
Where?
location.
and then whether we're gonna
Transform it.
refurb it
Oh my
or
God.
whether we're gonna new construction.
It's, yeah, I'm thinking,
There's money. This is gonna cost money.
yeah.
I guess the
Upfront.
question before you as a collective is the direction you would like to point myself and Director Bonarek and the supervisor. Do you want this money just going to pay for the service at the Humane Society and wash our hands of it, because that's the easiest way to do this, is just throw money at it? Or do you want to put the money into something that collectively the board and this authority controls and owns? It is really the question in long term. That's the long-term question. The short-term question is, what are we going to do before we get to make the long-term
To the
decision?
chair, I just.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chief, I'm curious, so when I look at these numbers, and I don't pretend to have any real knowledge of all the costs of these individual services, but $54,972 seems very cheap. And so if I'm sort of steel manning their position, I'm like, if they have been mismanaged for decades, they haven't been doing capital, we have an amazing finance team, we have amazing directors who are saying, what are we gonna need to do in 10, 20 years? Let's start putting money away. If they haven't been doing that, and they're having this crisis of our roof is bad and it's leaking, like, I'm just wondering if, have we dug into, based on other regions, other cities, other systems, like, were the costs we were paying just never realistic, and this is basically the snapback of a long-term underfunded system?
I would say that it was a very poor plan. Yes, that was not enough funding. And that's one of the things that Director Bonner had brought up, is when you guys started noticing this problem 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it would have been the wiser decision to come to the different municipalities at the time and say, hey, we're going to charge you an extra 10 grand a year right now,
Yeah.
because we know this is what's going to happen. I don't disagree, and that makes the most sense. And Director Bonner had even said that would have been something he would have fully supported back then. Like, yeah, let's start putting money away,
Yeah.
because we are planning for that. So could the price be that we should be paying more? I'm not saying that we shouldn't.
Yeah.
But the way they have gone
Oh,
about
it's horrible.
business.
Absolutely.
And quadrupling fund, or pricing at some point while removing services.
Well, and I will say, just to interject, is that even if we did exactly what they want us to do and paid all the money that they're asking for, they have a proven record of not managing properly. And what makes me feel good about them managing this now, so they're not come back to us in 3 years going, oh, we need, a new AV system, we need, new walls, or what.
That's what
It's
their
hard.
donors are for.
Pardon me?
That's what their donors are for.
But
Well,
that's
but
the
what I'm
problem,
saying,
they're
well, the
saying
donors
donors
didn't
don't
take
wanna
care of
do
this
that.
building. My problem with it is that to throw good money after bad is not a good idea. If they didn't manage properly, they're a business like every other business, why are we all having to pay not only for them not doing the pricing right, but not taking care of the building? Because that was new at one time.
It was, and
so-
just so that you can visualize it,
It's a small
MHS
building,
has,
isn't it?
well, there's two different buildings.
Are you using the berm
There's the-
in Westland?
The Berman Center has two buildings.
Okay.
What you're picturing as the Berman Center, when you guys go in to adopt an animal, that's not the building our animals are in.
No.
Okay.
There's another building out back. that our animals, that's where the 10-day holds are, that's where the court holds are, that's where all of that is until those dogs are deemed adoptable and then they're moved over here. That's the building that needs all the work. It needs a floor, it needs a roof, it needs a heating, whatever
That's
that
why the
means.
donors don't want to pay for that, because that's not where the adoptables are.
Right.
Donors are paying for the adoptables, care, housing, and that for
Or
those that are up for
enrichment,
adoption.
or whatever else they
rescue.
want to call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But most people then take their general fund dollars and then move it over where it needs to be instead of this. So we'd be essentially building a building for them.
Yeah, because how often do donors go, all right, I'll give you $50, but here's how you're going to spend it?
Yeah.
They do.
They
That's
do.
what
Oh,
they
yeah.
say,
That's
it's earmarked
insane.
for this
Well-
enrichment program, or this outdoor dog, or this is what we are being told directly to our face.
Well, I see that the cost savings to go with the 3-year, just the first year alone is cost savings is $64,000. And the second year, with having a 6-month out, it would fiscally, it would be more responsible to go with the 3-year with the 6-month out, being that the savings alone that first year is $64,000 based on them wanting to charge $6,300 versus $12,000.
And that's a valuable point. I just needed to make sure that I was presenting all of the options for you guys to
The
consider.
6-month out makes me feel comfortable, not feeling like we're locked into 3 solid years with them.
I was just thinking, the pricing gives you really no option except to go with a 3-year.
That's true.
Because
Yeah.
it's cost prohibitive to just go with that one. And as far as managing the budget and mismanagement, was there any discussion about what they were going to do to address that or improve that? Anything that they were saying that says, okay, we know we've been irresponsible, but here's how we're going to be responsible?
I understand.
Absolutely nothing. When I said that, why should we pay for your mismanagement, they go, well, it wasn't really mismanagement, we just didn't charge you enough all this time, and that's why we're in a situation. And our donors decided they're not putting money into that building anymore. They want to put it into the other building where adoptions and all the good stuff happens, and they don't want to be any part of funding municipalities that are bringing in animals.
So just,
So they weren't apologetic, they didn't take much responsibility for anything, it was just kind of happened.
So your point would be addressed if we decide to go with an authority, and if that authority decides to still utilize the MHS facility and some of their staffing, then the authority would have that direction over the budget, right? And the strategic planning. So then you'd be having all the finance minds of these surrounding communities,
Yeah.
you know, Director Bonarack and all of his counterparts, all of those financial brains in one room, I would like to hope would make a better financial plan moving forward.
Absolutely.
If that's the direction that the board would like us to go as far as trying to broker this deal into a new authority, and then the option of still utilizing MHS, at least we would know that we would have direction and control as far as an authority is concerned over how funding is spent.
Are they in line with that?
They
Well-
have expressed interest in it. We have
Yeah.
not come to them with any type
No.
of formalized structure or plan. They've expressed interest in sitting in those meetings to discuss that opportunity.
So I guess
Trying
we've
to think of
had,
their verbiage.
we've had
used.
some meetings with all the communities. And the one, that this didn't go on the agenda because I want to make sure everybody had a chance to look at both options about contracts. We know that we're going to have to pick one of them to get by and to continue to work to see if we can make all the rest of this go together. You know, and like anything else, there's 5 and now there's 7. And when it starts coming time to do something, I'm sure we're going to lose 1 or 2 people because they'll change their mind, maybe not. But we're going to continue to work in that direction, whatever it is, and bring it back to the board. Because no matter what, we want to try to find it at least so we have some control over how money's being spent, even if it ends up costing us like this. But we have no control.
I do
And-
feel comfortable saying, and if you would agree, that the 4 municipalities, ourselves, the Heights, Livonia, Westland, and from my understanding, Canton, though I have not spoken with them directly, they are very much interested in doing some form of an authority. I mean,
I thought it's in Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. I think,
Dearborn
yeah.
was involved in the conversations,
Yeah.
but they never really put forth any definitive
Okay, all right.
information. They would likely be involved, but the 4 that you see here, 100%
Yep.
is interested in pursuing an authority or a consortium. I think it is comfortable to say that Canton is as well. And I believe Northville was poking around, asking.
So how would MHS benefit from being under an authority? Okay, I'm MHS, why would I do that?
Because we'd be putting all kinds of money into your property.
In addition to or instead of these monthly payments?
Oh, in addition to that, well, the authority, if we do the authority, it would be funded differently, so it would all come into one general pot.
Have a little bit more.
I
Yeah.
mean, we would have to look at some different, at that point in time, and I'm not the finance brain behind this, but listening to the ones that were talking, we would have to go out and get some bonds from the different communities to be able to support this concept.
Do we have any, so in my mind, again, it's like, there's the way we're going, which is not ideal, right?
Correct.
Capital expenditures for something they mismanaged. I guess, for me, if there can be some kind of conversation that says, yes, after this initial, $230,000 investment, this new rate with a annual 3 to 5% per inflation rate increase is built to cover capital expenditures moving forward. And then we do napkin math of like, what does it cost to do the consortium, build again, I think this is a raw deal, but it's kind of a raw deal because they know there isn't necessarily any
It's
other,
enough.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way we could build, staff, and run a facility for less than this. It's gonna end up costing us more in the long run, and then we have to put a roof on it, and we have to, so I guess that's kind of the thing I'd love to see is like, what is that high-level guesstimate math of, here's what it would cost, here's just minimally annual salary for staff plus the facility, just to get it off the ground, what does that cost?
Well, and I don't think we don't have that answer right now.
No, I know we don't.
We don't. And-
Yeah, we
and-
gotta have
And I guess that, we're not just gonna say, okay, let's sign paperwork before we know, and the board will be kept apprised of what we have going. I mean, now, once we live through this, because all the communities are going through this contract thing, once that's done, then we can focus more on the future instead of the now. And.
As bad as it sounds, we need
Yeah.
a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
I need something to
so-
plug the hole.
And that's this.
That's what one of these are. This is plugging the hole.
So.
And it just looks like they found ways on top of us paying a flat rate every month. When you look at the current contract versus the contract last year, there's things that they've taken out that we are now responsible for paying. Like, when I guess they were saying like some things, like collecting fees, certain fees that they would try their best to get it from the individual.
And
Now-
that's like the shelter fees.
Yeah,
And we all set our own different shelter fees.
okay.
There wasn't any significant cuts that I was able to see between last year's contract and this one. It wasn't like the previous year where they
Yeah.
started cutting everything off. A lot of that stuff we don't utilize, so
Okay,
that's
good.
fine. Like, we don't use their training or their court appearances or any of that stuff.
Okay.
So those fees don't apply to us.
Okay, good.
Literally, the only things that we use on a regular basis, obviously the monthly, depending on what Officer Pavlovich's caseload looks like, we've used their necropsy services sometimes. Their medical examiner services, for lack of a better word. That's really about the biggest things that we do there. Sometimes there's some fees for dogs held for court cases.
Okay. Which they did increase those too.
So Chief, just a couple more questions. The Michigan Humane Society, is this them? Or do they have
Yes.
a state this is it. This little group of people here in Westland, that is the, so it isn't a larger organization, a statewide organization.
It is a larger organization, and we have met with people that are higher up than
That's
just
what I was
Westland.
wondering.
Right.
We have met with the board of the Humane Society, including like Rochester and whatnot that you're referring to.
Yeah.
They've got maybe five
So
shelters.
who's
Fine.
mismanaging the operations and the capital investments into Westland? Is it the state as a whole, the Michigan Humane Society, or is it the local branch that has mismanaged their local budget?
To be fair, I don't know the answer to that.
I'm just
I
wondering
think
if
that
there's
we're-
like a bigger coffer, a statewide coffer, like, do they have a budget that, like our state goes, here's yours, here's yours, here's yours, here's yours, kind of thing, and they spread out their,
I honestly don't know the answer to that.
okay.
I believe they have some localized donors that specifically donate to, say, Berman versus the Rochester, but I don't know the overarching.
I just can't believe for capital improvements that there is not some kind of fund at a higher state level that is available to their branches for capital improvements.
They're telling us no.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think I can
Years ago, when we
subpoena or
didn't have
FOIA.
money, there wasn't a higher state fund to give us money for capital improvements. They said, here's your budget, figure it out.
Yeah, that's where we go, okay, we're gonna take so much money every
Right.
year and put it towards
And that's what-
our truck
Right,
funds.
Right.
and they did
our
not do
car
that.
funds,
And-
And they haven't done that in,
Yeah, that's what Trustee Reeves was talking about.
yeah,
They have,
now
they
they're
did
like, oh,
not plan.
now they're like, oh crap, we
Yes,
got
ma'am.
money
Oops.
and our
Yeah.
building's falling in on us.
Yes, ma'am. And that's what we've been looking at. And we're between a rock and a hard place. Whichever that as a board you guys choose to do, we wanted to have this discussion, let you guys chew on it, look at it some more, and bring it back before you next meeting.
Yes.
To take a vote, at least on this contract.
Yeah.
And we will still continue, in my opinion, regardless of your decision of which you choose, we're still going to continue to pursue other opportunities, whether it's as a consortium or whatnot.
So are they saying the increase to all of the municipalities that they're suggesting, including to us, are going to cover the capital improvements that they need to do over the next 3 years? Is that the intent of raising it year 1, year 2, year 3, is to cover all of the expenses that they perceive that they may have over the next 3 years?
At least enough of them to make it profitable
Well,
at this
yeah,
point. I don't want to say all of it,
No.
because for them to have originally come to us and say, we want 230,000, and then I want 250 on top of it over
So
3
then,
years.
if we put this authority together, we shouldn't see any more additional cost other than what we're paying in the contract to go towards the Humane Society for their capital improvements if they've already built those costs into our contract, right? You're saying that this authority
If
can get
we
together
create
and
an
we might start.
authority,
Yeah,
if we create an authority, these contracts will kind of be wiped away, because then the authority will then come up with its own plan and its own costs based upon what the authority deems.
and we'll submit it to them and they'll either say yay or nay, and we're right back to square one if they don't accept.
Yeah.
If we choose to use their site and their staffing.
Right.
If the consortium chooses to create itself, and then their plan is just to go out and, hey, Livonia, you're it.
So the authority's still at the mercy of MHS because they're still going to be the only.
Not at that point, if the authority decides that we want to go out to our own location.
We'll still have to use them while we pool our funds together to do something.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's still that window of time to where we're all going to be forced to use this service until we can come up with a final solution.
And until it is operational, which is, I believe that we can come up with an answer and a plan by the end of this year.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say that we will be operational with whatever that plan may be by the end of this year. It may take, depending on what that plan is, it may take another year to retrofit and/or to construct
Well,
whatever
and
it
it is
is.
until year 3 that we see the cost nearly double from this year.
Correct.
and that would be the goal, obviously, to try to get something done before.
And
Costs
in their
triple
mind, I
or
believe
double.
that they didn't do that until then because they wanted to spread the pain out.
Because everybody wasn't buying it the way they originally laid it
Yeah,
out.
kidding. All right.
So that's really kind of where I'm at. You guys know me, I'm reachable, if you have questions. Officer Palovich, myself, Director Von Erich, and the supervisor will still be looking at these other things, but right now, I just ask that, as a board, you guys kind of choose.
Yeah, be prepared at the next meeting to vote on either 1 or 3 year. We have to do that.
But you got a 3-month extension from the date that you signed it.
Right.
From January
I- Yeah,
1st.
Okay. So,
by time.
I basically have until March 31st.
Basically, don't we now have to decide which one we're gonna be voting on?
Not
I
in
mean-
2 weeks.
2 weeks, we're gonna be voting on it, but we're gonna
Either
be
1
voting
year
on
or
it.
2 year.
We can
Or
hold
1 year or
brief-
3 year,
It's
one of
One
these
or
two.
3 year,
It's
but I'm
really
saying
not a
now,
choice.
don't we just say, okay, we're gonna be voting on 3 year, and that's what's gonna be on the
Well,
agenda?
I don't,
Or are you gonna put on the agenda?
they'll both be on the agenda, and somebody can make a motion that I think we should do the 1 year or the 3 year, and there'll be a second, and we'll have a vote.
To the chair,
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how we all feel. It seems like the 3 year is the only,
it's.
Right.
I mean,
It's the only
it
viable option.
averages to 114,000 a year
Yeah.
across 3 years. It's just a better deal. We're gonna need the runway. There's no way we're pulling this off.
Then I would just say, put it on the
I think
agenda
it's-
to vote
That's
for the
3
3-year
year.
contract.
That's what I'm
for-
saying too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense to have both of them on the agenda.
If that's what you would like me to do, that's the letter I can
Okay.
submit.
Yeah.
I just wanted you guys to all have the opportunity to look and see what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Right, you know what, just say, here, this is what you get.
It's cost prohibitive to
Well, I
even
get it, but-
consider
Exactly.
one.
No, I appreciate that.
Exactly.
I want you guys to glad we talked it out,
When
yeah.
I saw it, I was like, you can't do, there's no way you can do 1 year.
Right.
It'd be nicer to have a 3-month out and not a 6-month out, but I suppose if that's standard,
The 6 month, I'm still there.
yeah.
Yes, yes. So, anything else? Okay, everybody has these, they can chew on them some more. I think we've chewed them pretty good here.
Yeah.
And,
We got
at
a
our next
picture of
meeting,
what we're
we'll,
facing.
yes, and at the next meeting, we'll bring, this will be on the agenda to vote on. All right? Anything else?
Thank you.
Nothing else? Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
For making this presentation, and this meeting's adjourned. We'll start up again at 6:30.
What time is it now?
6:12, 6.
7. rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as the Honorable Carla Sanders gives our invocation.
Almighty God, we acknowledge that you hold us all to account for the way we legislate and administer the affairs of our township and its fine people. We pray for your guidance as we do so. We pray that you find us protecting, we pray that you would find us protecting the rights of all at all times, that our community and this nation will fulfill all of your purposes. Amen.
Amen. Clerk Sanders, please take the roll.
Treasurer Kavanaugh, absent. Trustee Jackson,
Here,
Trustee Taylor,
Here?
Clerk Sanders here. Trustee Reese,
Here?
Trustee King, absent. Supervisor McCray.
Present. Quorum is present. Next is the approval of the agenda. I just need to add to the agenda the department report for the police department. Didn't get to the clerk's office in time to get on the agenda, but the police chief is ready to tell us everything we need to know about the police department. So I look for approval of the agenda with the adjustment.
to the chair.
Trustee Jackson.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have one citizen comment, and that would be Chief Mansfield.
Because you guys won't hear from me enough this evening.
Well, this is your show.
Good evening. All I would like to talk about this evening is to invite everyone to our Coffee with a Cop in February. So it is February 3rd from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. And this month we will be at the Redford Grill. So come on out, meet some of your officers. We'll have a slew of folks out there. You guys know at the grill, they take care of us. So we'll have our own little spot in the back where we have plenty of room to chat and move around and discuss whatever's on your minds and have a good breakfast and some coffee. So February 3rd, 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to Officers Peterson or Eddings. Not it.
Okay, just stay up there, Chief, because you're next. Moving on to department reports. Police Department, Chief Mansfield.
All right, and it's me again. Hi. So we have had a very, very busy 2024. So we've got a lot to talk about. I have the report up here for you guys to look at. There's also some printed in the back. I'm pretty good about going over everything, but I'm sure the board will be more than thrilled to ask me questions if I miss something. So with that, let's get started. This year, by the numbers, I am currently sitting at 55 sworn. That does include 2 anticipated retirements this year, as well as one that is off on an extended military leave. I have 4 civilian dispatchers who are also our jailers. I have 2 Cadet 2s. Now, that's a little fudgy because one of them starts tomorrow morning, and the other one I'm giving a job to on Thursday. So I will have 2 Cadet 1s. Cadet 1s are the part-time guys and gals that work at our office, and they work around the station. Cadet 2s, I have 1. That would be Cadet Sidlowski, who is Supervisor McCray's favorite little cadet running around.
Nice.
She started the police academy yesterday, and we are very excited to see her come out. I have 7 civilians. That ranges from our ACO to our different administrative staff throughout the building, and 2 contractors, our IT guy as well as our new facilities maintenance contractor. Just so you guys know, I currently have sponsored, meaning this department, 4 cadets through the academy. Cadet Sadowski is 5. Of those 4 that have already been through, 3 of them were military vets. So just a fun fact for you. And the one I'm hiring on Thursday is also a veteran and a Redford alum. So we're excited about that. Recruitment. This is the big topic of the day. And I will tell you, our recruitment team is led by Captain Fitzsimmons, who's back here, and she has put together one heck of a team. These guys and gals are out at every job fair, police academy, anything you can name. We have updated our marketing materials, we've updated our website. They are all over social media. So if you have not seen us on Facebook, Instagram, and now LinkedIn, please do. Handshake for those of us of a later age, if you will. That's a college recruitment social media, okay? So the rest of us don't even know what that is anymore, but we've had some luck there, so I'm excited. Accreditation is another big one. We've been talking about it, we've promised to do it, and what accreditation is this is proof of Redford PD's dedication to providing the top-notch excellence in law enforcement service professional standards. We are held to a state standard, and this is through the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, which is basically run through the Michigan Associations of Chiefs of Police, okay? We pulled the trigger. We did it. We applied last week. Our clock has started. We have 2 years to reach all of our accreditation needs, which is generally policy updates, making sure all of our policies are where they should be, our training, our records keeping. There's some little bit of changes around the building, but nothing major. But this is a huge undertaking, and this is also being led by Captain Fitzsimmons, and she has a committee of people that are out there working, and we are hitting this ground running. So I hope in 2 years, I'll be here to tell you, we've been accredited. Okay? ICAT. We had talked about ICAT. That is the Integrated Communications and Tactics De-Escalation Training. Our entire police department, top to bottom, has officially been trained in this awesome, awesome program. This is a national program. It was developed by PERF, which is the Police Executives Research Forum. This is a top-notch training. Our dispatchers, our cadets, and our officers, and it is also now part of our new officer training. I know that was one of the concerns that you guys had. It's being implemented, so every person that comes in is still getting this training. It was completely covered by a grant. Always good when it's not costing us any money. One of the key things it's utilized for are mental crisis encounters, and we've been seeing some significant good work. Something new to law enforcement, not just Redford PD. We now have continuing professional education credits and standards. This is very specific training mandated by the state commission. And what happens if we don't reach our standards? They will suspend our license. And I don't mean as a department, I mean as an individual level. So each officer must keep a certain level. For us, this isn't a stretch. Your police department is extremely well trained. This is a documentation issue for most of us. This is something that Captain Dietrich is in charge of, and keeping all these different little check boxes marked. Thankfully, it doubles up a lot on the accreditation requirements. So we're lucky in that regard. Just as some basic knowledge, we're required to do 24 hours a year. 8 of those hours have to be in a specific category that the state mandates each year. This year, it's mental health crisis. Well, we have a civilian clinician that you'll hear about, as well as our police legal advisor. They have teamed up. So we're going to get 8 hours of training right off the rip. That's being handled next month. So we're excited there. Here's a little blurb about what some of the different choices are. The 8 have to be what the state says, and then the other can be kind of what I choose, which is nice. Investing in our team. When I accepted this position, I promised the board one of the things we would put together is a serious investment in our command staff to be able to mentor and train our young department. We do have a very young department. And one of the things that we are doing is making sure our sergeants, our lieutenants, our captains, and myself, we all have the tools that we need to be successful and to make sure that our officers are ready to get out and protect and serve you. Staff and command executive leadership. Of our 13 command staff people that we have, 3 of them have already gone. Captain Burrs will be attending next month. I've also attended, but I'm not part of that number. New chief school, Captain Burris has already gone. Captain Fitzsimmons is going in March. I have gone. We have some unique opportunities to take advantage of an FBI training that all 4 of our lieutenants are going to be attending. And we actually recently just held a behavioral intelligence seminar because we want our command staff to be able to communicate best with their officers. Our detective bureau, whew, that is a busy group of people, and Captain Burris over there is doing a great job leading this team. Our closure rates are going sky high. We have had a lot of luck getting our cases closed, getting our suspects in jail. A lot of them are facing the different courts and what they have going. You'll see I noted the Little Caesars shooting there. I know that was one of the ones that had a lot of your attention this year. We actually found that guy. He's been arrested. He's charged. He was actually charged previously as a juvenile. Yeah, that's going to come back and haunt him a little bit. His case is still being adjudicated, but he's looking at some good time. So we're good time in jail. Our school resource officers, I don't think I can say enough about Officers Hall and Officer Plymouth. The school districts, the students, love them. They are rocking it out there. They're already initiating their own trainings at the schools. They have joined the youth commission, so they are helping with us in developing some other stuff out here for the community. So they're out there going at it. We've also garnered some partnerships. Captain Burrs has actually reached out to Detroit PD, and we are out there meeting weekly with their violent crimes task force, as well as their shot spotter team, and there was another group I'm missing, street crimes?
Yeah, street crimes out there, 30 series.
The street crimes in 30 series. So we're sharing a ton of intel, as well as our partnership with GrowthWorks. So we're providing some different resources for kids. We're trying to correct their behaviors, but keep them out of the system. So GrowthWorks has a great diversion program that we're working on utilizing. Our crisis clinician, talk about a superhero and a superstar. This is something that we pay for with a state grant. Sonia is completing she just completed her first year with us. We hired her in February of '24 because it took a while to find the right one. In '24 alone, she had 379 referrals. That is a lot for somebody that's working Monday through Friday. She has handled, you see where she had 108 co-response. When we say co-response, that means she's going to a crisis scene with officers. She is on the street. Our officers call for her. They have recognized her value. I can't speak enough to the good things that she's doing. She's receiving community referrals, which means members of the public, you guys are literally calling the station asking for her now. She has already developed that reputation, which is fantastic. Our tech. You guys heard me last meeting tell you technology is the way of law enforcement future, and we're in it. Our virtual reality training system, which was paid for by a grant, is phenomenal. Our team is working on learning how to use it. Apparently, I needed to hire some tech geeks I didn't know about, but I got a couple of them that are top notch, and they're loving it. So I'm hoping to have that up and running in about a month or so. I'll make sure that you guys have the opportunity to use it. Our flock cameras, those are our license plate readers and cameras in that regard. Right now, we have 6. We're looking to add some more next year. But even with those 6 that we have here, that's giving us access to over 9,000 across the country. And that allows us to track vehicles across different areas when they're stolen, if they're involved in a crime. We've already had 9 arrests of stolen cars that we can point directly at Flock and say, without Flock, we wouldn't have had those arrests. And we've also returned over $125,000 in property value from things we were able to track down and return. So this is a phenomenal investment. You guys know that we improved our gun range. This is now up and running. It has some latest features, including being able to be controlled by a tablet, and we can create customizable scenarios on our weapons range. I mentioned it earlier, but again, our department is extremely well-trained in scenario-based training as well as our gun range, and this is going to help us stay that way. That Oscar camera, that's the one, the Detective Bureau, we talked about that at the last meeting. Well, our DB is a happy crew because it was delivered today. And it's out of the box, and they're already figuring it out. So that's there. That's going to help document crime scenes for better prosecution. You guys are all part of Redford Township Alert, I hope, and if you're not, please go to our website and get signed up for it. But this has increased our communications across the township. It can be utilized by the DPW as well as us. And in the event of a major incident, this is going to be huge. It's going to be so important. We've added 6 radar signs over the past year. We've 6 new traffic lasers that you guys approved at the last meeting. I believe Captain Fitzsimmons unboxed them today, and Officer Vance is a very happy man. I don't know who's happier, him or Detective French right now. Our dispatch system, whew. I know this is a project I am going to be so happy when it's done. But we are getting a state-of-the-art dispatch system that literally just lets us catch up with everybody else. It is so important to be able to communicate multi-jurisdictionally in the event of some sort of crisis. This is going to allow us to do that. It is also going to give us the ability to be encrypted, which may be mandated by the state sometime in the near future, but right now, what it's most important for is keeping citizens' information private, because we put a lot of information over the radio when we have to. It also provides some officer safety, because people like to listen to scanners and then show up at scenes. I've had people notified on Facebook about an incident that's occurring before my command staff can even call me. That's how fast. So this is a huge investment for the police and the fire because they will also use it. And the way things are going, they were in there today. We expect it to be up and running in the first couple of weeks of February. So that's a bonus. Our community engagement, you guys know what we're involved in. I don't think this is something that I have to go over heavily. We're still doing Neighborhood Watch, National Night Out, Police Academy. You can find us on social media, and our Explorers and Juniors are up there. Partnerships, we're very active. We added Hope Not Handcuffs because we do believe substance abuse is a problem, and we want to try and make sure those that suffer from substance abuse get the help they need, not just incarcerated. So we're working on that. Animal control. Now, I know that we just spent a study session talking about the Humane Society, but what I want to talk about here is Officer Palovich. She has answered nearly 300 runs herself this year. She's got 347 violations that are issued, and that's sometimes there's multiple violations to the same person depending on what's going on. She's still investigating 15 cruelty and neglect cases. One of them's still down in felony court, so we're still waiting on that result. So these are big cases. The number that didn't make it on there is I know she had 40 vicious dogs or possible vicious dogs that are still on there. Those are cases that she's pursuing. She's done 3 search warrants on her own. So these involve like hoarding cases and cruelty cases where people are not cooperative. Not to mention she assists Captain Burris's crew all the time when we're doing criminal search warrants. She makes sure she's available. A big thing, we changed 3 of our main ordinances over from the ordinance department, where it was a mandatory court date, and we moved it over into the civil infraction category. So people can just pay their tickets. They don't have to go to court, which got to be rather cumbersome, and it did not work out well. When we did that, we also adjusted the fine schedule to make it comparable to the different jurisdictions around us. Some things about Officer Palovich. She is routinely training other jurisdictions' new animal control officers. She had 4 separate jurisdictions in 2024 being trained here at Redford Township because people know the quality. She's involved in community events. She's going to be doing the Dog Days events. We've also got some other plans in the work for that. The animal control truck, it's here. It should be available, I'm hoping next week, possibly the week after. It's getting outfitted with the computer right now, so it's really waiting in line. And the Michigan Humane Society costs, we discussed, we're working on trying to find an answer there. We rebranded. You guys seen all of our new cars out there? So we don't have the boring black ones anymore. Well, we do, until they're out, rotated out. But all of our new ones, we've got gray and silver Durangos, Explorers, and we have a Tahoe that'll be hitting the road later this fall. So this is the look. This is what you're gonna see out there. We have one black Charger, which is just kind of the reverse, right? Still has the blue line. And there's our new animal control truck. It's already been striped. So that's a little different, little updated, and it stayed on brand, so as part of the PD. We completed our emergency operations plan. That's been approved by this board. It's also been submitted to Wayne County, as well as we have obtained theirs. So this is also very essential for a major crisis or incident here in the township. And lastly, looking to the future. We have a strategic plan in the works. We are looking to put together a 3 to 5 year plan that includes everything from recruitment, staffing, policies, capital. This is succession planning. We're making sure that we have a plan moving forward so that we're not always reinventing the wheel and that we're making decisions all in the same path. And this is something we have started this week. This is not an overnight thing for those of you that have ever been part of a strategic plan. This is going to take us a bit, but it's going to be very valuable to this department in this township. I'm extremely excited to say we'll be bringing back our canine. We will, thank you, Barb. We will be having a canine program. It will begin this fall. So we're extremely excited about that, hence the Tahoe not coming on the road until then. The Tahoe will be the dog car. We have a permanent prescription drug disposal kiosk. That should be delivered in the next couple of weeks. So instead of just having to do drug take-back day, our residents and citizens will have a permanent place where they can come and get rid of the different prescription drugs that they need to so that we are not contributing to the substance abuse problems in our homes. Our preps and mobile radios and vehicle radios, that's on the horizon so that we will be fully encrypted. Our plans as our staffing rises, and I know this is always something we're looking at. We are looking to add an officer to the Southeastern Michigan Auto Cry Consortium. SMAC, I had to ask the captain to please put that in writing for me. It is the Dearborn Auto Task Force. Okay, that's one of the most active. They also have members in Detroit's commercial auto theft team, which is fantastic. So this is going to be a great improvement. It's going to help us with our stolen vehicles, our larcenies, and all that. And of course, we will be looking to add on a traffic officer to assist in, monitoring the neighborhoods, getting some of these complaints taken care of. So as our staffing increases, it's looking good, and we need to keep them coming. So with that, Teresa, how'd I do?
Close.
I was trying for 10 minutes.
Well,
Questions?
I just got to say that the police department, under leadership of the chief, has done outstanding work over there. The attitudes and the work ethic is so much better than it has been in the past, and I can't tell you all that are here, and please spread the word that I think that you guys are doing a great job over there, especially under some difficult times when you don't have the manpower. The report is outstanding. It's amazing to me with what manpower you have that you're able to do what you guys do. And you should be applauded by everybody for the work you guys do.
They're doing the work. So, my team is out there. Thank you, guys.
So with that, anybody have questions for the chief?
No.
Good job, chief.
Good job.
Well, I guess you're excused, sir. Jeez. Okay, next is going to be the consent agenda items.
To the chair.
Trustee Taylor.
I move that we approve the consent agenda items as follows. The minutes of the special meeting of January 14th, 2025. The minutes of the study session, January 14th of 2025. The minutes of the regular meeting, January 14th, 2025. The warrant list of bills as of January 23rd, 2025, in the amount of $3,026,959.38. The reappointment of Lou Wysocki to the Redford Township Historical Commission, term ending 1/28/28. The reappointment of Mary Kavanaugh to the Redford Township Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, term ending 2/28/26. The reappointment of Leo Snage to the Redford Township Zoning Board of Appeals, term expiring 1/31/28. Advertisements for bids, property tax and utility bill printing services, 2025 through 2027, beginning February 6th, 2025 through February 27th, 2025. Advertisement for bids, backup generator installation project, Redford Township multiple buildings and facilities, beginning February 13th, 2025 to March 13th, 2025.
Support.
Supported by trustee Jackson. Any questions? Hearing none, vote all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. As we move on to new business, and that will be trustee Taylor.
So we have an opening on the DEI Commission, and this is to appoint, at the request of the DEI Commission, the appointment of Brianna Taylor, a term ending 1/28/27. I'm sure that you all know Brianna. She's also on our Historical Commission as well, and looks to get more involved with the community. So I would move that we approve the appointment of Brianna Taylor to the Redford Township Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, term expiring 1/28/27.
Support.
Supported by trustee Jackson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, I have Nancy McLean, who I'd like to see appointed to the Planning Commission. If you look over her credentials, they are simply amazing.
Yes.
She is very active and involved in our community and doing different projects, and she's always around helping out somewhere. She pops up. I think she'd be a great addition to the Planning Commission, and I'm looking for someone to give the motion to make that appointment happen. And Nancy is here. Nancy, want to come up and say a couple words? Sure she does.
In case y'all don't know who she is.
Yes, please.
Good evening. I'm Nancy McLean. I'm been a Redford resident now for about 27 years, and I'm proud to live here, and I'm looking forward to being able to serve my community in a way other than just planning 3 big parties a year. So I am a registered professional engineer. I'm a civil engineer, and I specialize in municipal engineering.
Perfect. Anything from anybody?
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching, she says. Okay. Okay, so what's the pleasure of the board?
To the chair,
Trustee Reese.
I move for the appointment of Nancy McLean to the Redford Township Planning Commission, term expiring 12/31/2027.
Support.
Supported. Okay, there's a motion to appoint the appointment of Nancy McLean to the Redford Township Planning Commission, term expiring 12/31/27. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Director Stokes.
Good evening, Honorable Board. I'm here before you and for the approval of the recommendation from the Redford Township Parks Commission to appoint Richard Louisianow to the Parks Commission vacant seat. As you remember, the board gave the authority for the Parks Commission to move forward with the process. So it began 12/12 of '24. We posted the application packet as well as the advertisement on both the township website and social media sites, and that was posted through January 8th of this year. We only received one application. At the January 13th meeting, the Park Commission did interview Mr. Louisianow and voted 6-0 to recommend to the township board for approval to appoint him to this position. I know there might be some question on the appointment term date. I did speak with Darian, and he was the one that gave me this part. If you aren't sure, we're not sure about that ending date, I can make sure that I contact the township attorney just to clarify that. So you could put it in a motion, a term ending per township law or something like that, or approval of that. So unless Clerk Sanders has any more information about that, that was just the information I was given.
Okay. No, at this time, I don't know.
Okay.
To the chair.
Trustee Jackson.
I think it's 2 years because for an elected position, you can only appoint somebody for 2 years. And after 2 years, I think there has to be a special election.
Correct. I think it was going
It's
to
to
the
the next
next general election,
Yeah, so if he's
Yes.
doing it
November
now,
3rd of
then go
26
to-
is why I put it
Yeah.
on.
Just-
That's what I
Just
would
like
do.
with- Yeah, two, just like what
Yeah,
what
so-
we did.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we should go with the 26th.
Okay.
And if that changes for some reason, we'll do whatever we need to do.
We'll amend it.
We'll amend it. That's
Okay.
great.
And Mr. Louise now is here if you wanted to meet him or had any specific questions for him as well. So would you like him to come up?
Well, I think we should give him an opportunity to speak.
All right, come on up.
Hello.
Hi.
So I have lived here for 38 years. Been here a long time. And not given much. And it's about time. So that's what I feel. I feel I have a construction background. I did home inspections for years. So I'm always looking at buildings, structures. And that's what I feel like part of my responsibility would be at the parks. Checking them out, making sure that they're safe for our kids and for our community. So thank you for considering me.
Okay. Questions from the board?
To the chair,
Trustee Reese.
I move for the appointment of Richard Louisanot to the vacant Parks Commission position, term expiring 11/3/2026.
Support.
Support Trustee Taylor. So the motion is to approve the appointment of Richard Leesenow to the vacant Parks Commission position, term ending 11/3/26. Okay, he shakes his head yes. I did okay. All right. And I'm sorry to your wife. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Jackson,
Yes.
trustee Reese,
Yes.
trustee Taylor,
Yes.
trustee King absent, clerk Sanders, yes, treasurer Kavanaugh absent, supervisor McCray.
Yes, motion carries. Congratulations and welcome to the planning. Park Commission. Director Stokes.
All right. The next agenda item is the approval of the Smart Municipal Credit and Community Credits contract for the fiscal year '25. So this is something that every year we work with Smart. They allocate funding to our township in order to support our operations with the dial-a-ride service that we have here. So the fiscal year, if you notice, they're always behind on their contracts. This is kind of the same thing that we have with all of our budgeting. So this one will end in July, I believe it is. Don't look at the specific date. July 1 through June 30th of 2025. So any expenses that we have already incurred in that will be used for this grant. So the total amount of municipal credits is going to be $46,331, and the community credits in the amount of $95,540 for the Smart fiscal year '25.
Questions from the board? Hearing no questions. You have one? No? Okay, hearing no questions. The pleasure of the board.
To the chair.
Trustee Jackson.
I move for the approval of the Smart Municipal Credits contract in the amount of $46,331 and the Community Credits contract in the amount of $95,540 for Smart fiscal year 2025.
Support.
Support by Clerk Sanders. The motion is to approve the Smart Municipal Credits contract in the amount of $46,331 and the community credits contract in the amount of $95,540 for SMART fiscal year 2025. Any other questions? Roll call vote.
Trustee Reese?
Yes.
Trustee King, absent. Treasurer Kavanaugh, absent. Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Trustee Taylor?
Yes.
Supervisor McCray?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director Mancini.
Good evening, Honorable Board. I come before you tonight asking for the approval of the sale of a property on Woodbine. It is a vacant lot, part of our SNAP program. Address is 15883 Woodbine. If you need me to read the tax ID, I can. The neighbors directly to the south would like to purchase the property. We have a purchase agreement prepared for $2,500. The sale of the property will include a deed restriction. They would only be able to do, like, say, a garage or an addition to their existing home, but not a separate dwelling. So I come before you tonight to see if I could get that approved. Additionally, that I could act as the person to sign the papers and complete the contract.
Questions from the board?
To the chair.
Trustee Reese.
Director, I have tried Google mapping this, and I cannot figure out which lot it is from maps. It shows it as a building with a driveway, but,
Yeah, I can show you.
okay.
So this is, sorry, this was where the house was. These are the people that are buying.
Okay, so is it demolished from when Google Maps?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
that explains it. Like, there's a building there.
It's not there
How do we
anymore.
sell it?
Oh, it's gone, that's why you can't find it.
Okay, it all makes sense. I was
Yeah.
saying Google also had a dirt road, so I said, something's wrong here.
So maybe that you were looking at Puritan, because that,
If you,
there it is.
it was interesting, it would show a paved road, and then when you'd move down Woodbine, it was from a decade ago, and it would turn to dirt as you clicked. It was very strange. Anyway, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions from the board?
To the chair. Just a
Trustee Sanders.
simple question. If it's sold, if the property is sold, does that deed restriction follow?
Yes, so it stays on the deed restriction when we prepare the claim deed, we'll put it on there, and then any time that it would be sold, they would see that deed restriction.
Okay.
Other questions from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
To the chair.
Trustee Taylor.
I move for the approval of the sale of property SNAP 2 program 15883 Woodbine, vacant lot, tax ID number 79-016-01-0036-001, to be sold, transferred to Ricardo Orozco Hernandez and Bianca Estela Tapia Aragia
Very good.
for the purchase price of $2,500, and appoint the Director of Community Development, Michelle Mancini, to act as an authorized representative on behalf of Redford Township to complete the necessary paperwork.
Support.
By Trustee Reese. Motion is to approve the sale of property, SNAP 2 program, 15883 Woodbine, vacant lot, tax ID 79-016-01-0036-001, be sold, transferred to Ricardo Orozco Hernandez and Blanca Estela Tapa Araga. Pardon me? Arriaga. All right.
Good job.
This is interesting. It's always good to have these names.
You did a good job.
For the purchase price of $2,500, and appoint the Director of Community Development, Michelle Mancini, to act as an authorized representative on behalf of Redford Township to complete the necessary paperwork. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Trustee Taylor?
Yes.
Trustee King, absent. Treasurer Kavanaugh, absent. Trustee Taylor,
That's yes.
I'm sorry, Trustee Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor McCray,
Yes.
Trustee Reese.
Yes.
Thank you, that's the name of it.
Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mancini. Any other announcements from the board? No announcements. Okay, well, all I can say is that, that we're going through some transitional times with weather. And, I've known a few people that have fell because of the ice out there. So please be careful, especially with the weather warmer one day, you think it's okay and it freezes up and you hit that one ice spot and it's not good at all. So be careful out there. We try to keep town hall well salted and cleared. So when you're here, be safe out there, and with no other business to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned.